Hello, this is Jay Brown. If you're listening to this, then chances are you or someone you know is familiar with my blog. Well, I've decided to try something new. I'm starting this podcast. I'm going to still do the blog every month, but now I'm also once a month going to put out a 1-hour taped voice conversation with somebody. I don't know if you've ever listened to any podcasts. I never listened to them, but recently I started, and I've just got really into them. I started to replace time that was normally for TV with just listening to podcasts. And what I really like about them is, they feel really intimate, and like I really think about them afterwards. I find them very stimulating. It makes me feel like maybe before we had TV, when there was just radio. And I also like them a lot better than like those videotaped Skype sessions. Like I've done some of those where you do like a Skype with somebody and then it's recorded and then they put it on Facebook or whatever. I don't find that engaging. I mean, it's the sound of what they're saying that's important. The image of them sitting in front of their computer doesn't add anything for me. And in fact, when it's just the two voices, it feels like I'm in the room with them. And in any case, I've got this list of people that I want to talk to. And a couple of them, some of them are like yoga celebrities I know who I think would do it. But also, they're just people I've met who are interesting people. And they have yoga practice in their lives, but I don't really want the focus to just be on yoga practice. I mean, I'm sure that'll come up because that's like what I'm into. But I want to get into some more nuance with people, more nuance than I can in the blog. And I talk about that in this first episode with my good friend and producer, Joshua Sitron. Josh is a producer of music and video, among other things. And he's a really interesting guy. We met each other years ago, like when I was first, figuring some things out for myself as a yoga teacher. Josh was in my class, and he kind of hit the jackpot. He co-produced the theme music for Dora the Explorer. And it was like a jackpot. He's basically like lived off that money his entire adult life. But it's interesting because he like quit the show at a certain point, like long before it really made all the money that it made. He became really disenchanted, I think, with what he saw in the back rooms over there at Nickelodeon and what happens in those machines when they take like somebody's soul project for kids and then it becomes like a massive money-making machine, So he's a really interesting viewpoint. I mean, he understands how business works in ways that I don't. And he's really educated me a lot in our friendship about these things. Josh produced my DVD, and I had him come over so that we could basically just like test out the recording equipment that we got, and it became what I want to be the first episode. So I guess that's it. Let's give it a listen. This is Joshua Sitron. And I really appreciate you giving it a listen. And I hope you'll tune in again. Thanks. So this is Jay Brown's Yoga Podcast. And this is our first ever episode. Is that what you call it?
I guess it is.
Podcast episode.
It is.
And I've decided to start a podcast because I feel like I'm feeling a little bit bound by this 800 words I do every month in my blog. And that's like the main criticism that I get always is like I'm never able to get to the kind of nuance or subtlety that to really parse things out. You know? It's just like broad outs.
Yes.
So now I'd like to spend a little bit more time kind of having that subtlety and nuance with people. Yeah. And I can't do it all by myself. I'm not just going to get on and
just
spout off about whatever I think, because I think that would not be that interesting to just have me talk about what I think. So I want to talk to other interesting people.
Okay.
And I have with me my good friend, dear friend, and producer of Jay Brown's yoga video and many other projects. And you're my first guest because who else could it be? You're the guy who's been brainstorming this whole thing with me, and we've been talking so much about, different media and different ways of communicating.
Yeah.
And you were the one who turned me on a little bit to podcasts. You're like, you got to start listening to podcasts. So why did you start listening to podcasts?
Why did I start listening to podcasts? We were renting this upstate little cabin that we would get to on weekends and stuff around 2008, and every weekend we'd have this 2-hour drive each way. And I'm like, I had just gotten an iPhone, and I was like, oh, This American Life I had kind of heard about. So I got This American Life, and I, for a couple of years, would listen to each drive would be a perfect one This American Life. It was perfect, and I really loved the format and stuff. And then I discovered WTF, and I gave up This American Life because
it was so good.
Strikingly more my style. In that, This American Life seems to be regular media, very professionally produced, very edited, FCC, not for profit but corporate sponsors, versus a guy in his garage who's a bit of a misanthrope. It's there was real talk versus choreographed talk. So I kind of gave up This American Life to this day I kind of it feels like I'm listening to something from the 1950s compared to Marc Maron, because Marc Maron is just total no BS and
it's a model. I think with anything I've done, you need a model for it.
Yeah.
And you think, wow, we can get two mics and sit and have a conversation and do that. We don't need corporate sponsors.
And speaking of models, but for a second, when I met you in your yoga class, and I still haven't pinned it down, but I'm going to go with 2002.
2002.
Let's go.
In Williamsburg, Brooklyn, 2002 at Go Yoga.
Go Yoga, Lilia.
That was when it was in the Girdle Factory on Bedford Avenue, correct? That was the first one. In the Girdle Factory, in the back of the Girdle Factory.
The back of the mini mall.
Well, it became the mini mall.
Right.
They were one of the first.
Before
it was literally a Girdle Factory. And it was owned by these Hasidic Jewish guys, and then they started.
There's a Chabad
there is still upstairs.
On Bedford in Williamsburg.
And they renovated one or two spaces in the back and rented them out to one or two businesses, and then eventually they renovated the whole floor, turned it into that little mini mall. And in the back of it was Go Yoga. Lilia Mead was the woman who ran, and actually Go Yoga just closed down 3 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, after 15 years.
No way, that's exact.
I think they have classes at another place in Manhattan, but I haven't. See, I should talk to Lilia. I want to talk to Lilia.
Put her on the list.
Put her on the list. Really? Find out what happened. Because I taught there for 7 years before I opened my place.
When I had started doing yoga around 94, but in a very dabbly way, and whether I went to the Y or the 92nd Street Y or wherever it was always a Iyengar. And it was definitely...
Well, that was the gold standard back then, for sure. Right.
But it was definitely felt way too hard, and I was, not very flexible, and it was always 100 people in the room. It was kind of insane, and yet I still believed in yoga. The quick background to my yoga was that I was pretty depressed. I was 23. I dropped out of college. I didn't know exactly what to do.
I knew you dropped out of college. Where'd you go to? Where'd you go?
A degree.
Where did you go to college?
You really thought I should?
I mean, I didn't ever think about whether you had a degree,
Right,
but
right.
where'd you go to college?
I went to Washington University in St. Louis. We call it Wash
And
U.
did you
a
have a
good
major
school.
yet, or was it just like undergrad?
I majored in bong making, and I believe it
Were you
was
good? Did you make good bongs?
I made very good bongs. Remember graphics bongs?
I
The
remember.
soup can base covered with suede and like a plastic. Or is this where we were going to
Oh
go?
yes, yeah.
I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind.
So wait,
But-
you went to Washington State University?
No, Wash U. It's called.
Wash
It's a
U.
private school.
And you went for how
5,000
long
people.
before you?
I was there 4 years, but I hung.
But you didn't graduate.
I was enrolled for 2.5 years. I went to about 4 classes in that total time, and then dropped out. My parents were like, maybe you shouldn't, maybe you're not that into it.
They
to my
were
parents'
supportive
credit,
of you dropping out.
yes,
Wow.
because I got to give my parents credit. They're not dumb. They could tell when something
It wasn't working for you.
They're like, we gave you about 20 years, and you're a free spirit. You're gonna find your way. You're not dumb, and you know what?
You were a smart guy. You couldn't thrive in that environment.
I went to the first day of class, the first week of classes, or even day. I did go to like Poli Sci 101 in one of these big lecture halls, and I was like, oh hell no! Like I needed applied shamanism through improv theater children's games. I needed yoga and psychotropic drugs and yoga and their effect on I was looking for I wanted inspiration and I was looking for the very thing you don't find in like
A university.
good liberal arts education. Well, Wash U was like the poor man's Ivy League. It's like a top 20, but it
I
was
see.
for all of us who didn't
Get all the way there to the Ivies.
No, yeah, I didn't get into like Duke and Penn, but I got into like Northwestern, Wash U, and that level.
So you were how old when you were done with school?
Like 20. But I hung around. I sold T-shirts. I played in bands.
You sold T-shirts? What kind of T-shirts?
Made friends with bartenders and stuff.
What kind of T-shirts?
I did those like, the parody T-shirts, Wash U King of Schools with the Budweiser logo and like Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, that crap.
Did you make money off that?
What do you think?
Yeah.
I would
even back in college, you were finding an angle and making money off
sold,
T-shirts.
I sold 1,000 T-shirts a year to an incoming freshman class of 1,500. Like that's a point of achievement.
Wow.
Because I did all the things right. Like I was like, you don't
See, and that's before you didn't have like any education in business or anything. Where does that come from? Is that like innate? Because
New
we're
York
getting ahead
Jew.
of ourselves. But
New
like,
York Jew. I think if you're a New York Jew, I hate to say it, but you can do two things really well. You know all the ways a person could die, and you know how to freaking like.
I don't know. Did you just like?
Did
say,
I just
like,
get
really?
Did I just get
racist thing?
really? I did.
We're going to be in trouble.
That's
now.
why
You're going to say there's someone's going to hear this, and they're going to be like, "Hear what he said about
but
Jews."
This is a perfect thing. This is a perfect example of like why I'm not.
You're not going to be
fit
the one
for society or whatever. But like, because I say like exactly. I say it like
it's okay.
I say a slur to all Jews that supposedly 1,000 people are going to listen to this, and then it's like, let me admit, yes, I am the first neurotic, self-hating Jew, anti-Semitic Jew on the planet. I know, but the point is, like, I liked it. It was an act. To me, it's like in the same way people would go fishing with their grandfather. We learn how to, like, I don't know, like you. It's a certain world-weary smartness.
I mean, because I never had that skill so much. I was always doing stuff that never made any money. I never could make any money at it.
And when I shouldn't say, like, I always undermined the amount of money I could make by other qualities, which weren't strictly. Believe me, I'd be. Yeah. There's a reason I'm a musician / whatever, and not an investment banker. I mean, it's really like. But I have that in my DNA, and I think you probably do too, and that's why we were able to do what we did together and be successful. But you're right. So thanks for saying that about calling me out on that, because that's what needed to be done. But that's the perfect thing.
You just want to let it slide,
But I can't.
Something comes out. But I think that's the.
But that's the difference. That's what's so good. Like, I could have not said that. And I don't think that would have been better. But
Right.
to say it and say nothing wouldn't have been good. But you say it and then
Gotcha.
that's yoga to me. That's the measured response to an actual thing.
All right, I got you. That's
I
what
say
we're
a
talking
negative thing that maybe is a little too aggressive or negative. Oh, let's
Find
not
a balance
let's
out.
not-
Let's get some
not bru-
sukha to your stira.
Thank you.
Find the stira
I don't.
sukha.
I don't
of
know
the
what that means,
conversation.
but no, I do.
Yeah, you do know what that means.
But say it. But say it.
Well, there's like the kind of the forcefulness of speaking freely without censoring yourself. Yeah.
But then you need the.
And I think that's awesome, and we got to allow for
Is
that.
that stira or sukha?
That- I would think of that more as the steer of like when you like let it fly a little. Like even when I'm teaching, there are times when I've got things that I've said before, or like some material, or like where I'm like I'm not putting myself out there and saying things I haven't said before. Like there are
Right.
times as a teacher where I do think you explore a little bit. So in terms of like the stira sukha of a conversation or like communication, there's a place where you're more, receptive, and then there's a place where you're more like putting it out.
Okay.
So you put yourself completely out there in that moment.
Yeah.
You said freely what was coming into your brain and in your
Truly.
thoughts that you're a neurotic Jew who knows how to make money.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
then we also know that when you put stuff out there into the world, that
It has
the Twitter
effect.
sphere or whatever the way things are. So we're cognizant of that, and we're going to try
Right.
to mitigate that
Right.
some. But we
So-
also don't want to be so PC that we don't say what comes freely.
So what's the choice? You cut out that bit, or
We'll see if it makes it in or
or
not.
you will, or you be willing to
let it.
take the repercussions.
But see, to me, that's the idea of the
'Cause-
podcast is that we let it have nuance.
But that's what. But that wouldn't that be? That's just what you don't want to happen. Have this great conversation, and then, like what happened with Obama and Marin, like the N word became the only thing when there was so much said. You don't want.
Yeah, but I
that's
think
a-
most people got past that. But you're right. One thing he said, one thing in there, and
Let me apologize to all my fellow Jews officially. I, in fact, don't think we're neurotic.
all
or good
Jews
at-
have it built
good
into
with
their
money.
DNA that they know how to make money.
Did I say DNA? It's not DNA. It's
It's
totally
like built
cultural.
in, yeah.
It's not DNA. It's cultural.
Okay.
Anyway, but
Anyway, so listen, you leave.
But what's it-
You
so I
didn't
left
finish college.
college.
How many credits did you have? How far away
I
were
don't
you?
know. I
You
don't
weren't
know.
even
Very
close.
far, very far. I used to have a joke like my transcript spelled wedding. No, I don't know, like withdrawal. Everything was like
Oh, so did you
withdrawal,
get? did you-
D-I.
I mean, are you saying you got married right when you left school? Or?
No.
I don't understand. What did that mean when you said you're?
No, there was like W's, E's, F's, D, like G's, I's.
What are W's? I don't understand. What you're talking
Withdraw.
Oh, withdraw.
I is
Oh, you didn't
incomplete.
finish the class.
It was more whiff.
I see.
It was more like wibiff. A lot of W's and I's,
I
which
see,
is
like you
withdrawal.
just didn't
and
finish anything.
Incomplete, yeah.
How do we get from
Well,
you
no.
leaving college to getting to my class?
Let me see if I could do this in like 2 minutes. This is my whole yoga story. Literally my first thing of yoga was when I was 5, and you'd run downstairs and you'd turn the TV on at 6 a.m. before your parents woke up, and I would watch Lilius.
Lilius Folan.
As a 5-year-old, I would watch it, and I would be. It was so weird because there was a little bit of a sexual thing.
Whoa.
I'm not even kidding. Like an
Okay.
attraction. I was attracted to it on a level that felt multiply like complex and weird. And as a 5-year-old, and I've often thought about what drew me to yoga back then. Didn't think of it once for 15, 20 years. I'm 23. I'm in Chicago. I dropped out of school. I'm really depressed. I have no idea what to do. Like, I'm really like, what the fuck? I'm delivering pizzas. I really was like down. And I'm in like this used bookstore, and literally like this book, like I didn't even touch it. Like behind me, 3 feet, a book falls off the shelf. And it was a big one. It wasn't like a paperback. And it was the Swami Satchidananda, black and white.
Illustrated book of yoga.
Yes. It was all black and white, like him swallowing.
It's a picture. It shows all the pictures of all the poses.
Him in a diaper, essentially. Swallowing rags, putting strings up his nose.
They have all the Kriya stuff in there, the crazy stuff.
And it has that early 70s things where it's all just black and white photos taking up the whole page. No words, no border.
See, ahead of its time. Oh my gosh!
Jay Brown's yoga video cover, like to me, harkens back almost to that
original
look.
thing.
So I immediately was like, I swear, I just had one of those things. Like, oh yeah, you remember Lilius in yoga? I got to do yoga. I just have to do yoga. I never knew anyone who had done it, but this book was like, what, you know? So I went to Barnes and Noble at the time, right? And I grabbed Richard Hittleman's. The Beginner's Guide to Yoga, you know, and I did it. And the first pose I did was the cobra, standing cobra, and I was my chest is opening, like it's real. And I totally did my own thing. I didn't even go to a class. Finally, I moved back to New York, and I go to a Y, and I'm in these 100-person Iyengar classes, really like in pain, really feeling like this is a harsh workout.
It was at the Greenpoint YMCA?
No, I did the 92nd Street Y.
92nd. Oh, that's why they were so big.
But no, before, the real first ones were on Long Island because I moved back home for a year or two at my parents' house. And I went to the local gym, which had an Iyengar guy, and they were still pretty big. Wow. And he was a good teacher. A nice guy. He was an older man.
So that's what, 1990?
This is 95 to 97.
Okay, so I was just coming into yoga at that time.
But that's what's weird to me is the fact that, like, right, people say I can't say I've been doing yoga over 20 years because the gaps are very large. Yeah. But bottom line is, like, I went to Iyengar, I was like, I know I'm into yoga, but for some reason I'm not so into this, but I didn't have the discipline to do it on my own. Moved to Williamsburg, meet and become friends with Gab Casper.
Oh, Gabrielle Casper.
Yeah. She was actually really good friends with my girlfriend at the time who I was living with. We lived across the street from her on North 7th.
She's still around doing her thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Give her my best if you see her.
I haven't seen her in a while.
Is she still teaching?
Yeah, I think she teaches over at Greenhouse.
So I started doing privates with her, and she was very hatha and very sort of like...
She had a theater background.
Yes, and like clowning
and
voice. And she recommended some really cool workshops that I did with like theater stuff. But she's like, I'm doing these privates. It was so luxurious, you know. I was I had Nickelodeon money back then, right?
Oh, right.
And so I'm like, but I'm like, it was so great. And I'm like, this is much more like it, you know? Because you felt like someone was doing it. It felt like something to make you feel well as opposed to something
that made you feel
let's go, everybody in the class, do this now. And it was great. And she's like, you know, you should go to I'm like, all right, I want to start doing class again. Are you teaching? Yeah, I'm teaching over at Go Yoga. So I went to Go Yoga. I'm doing Gabs and then Lilia's. And then one day, I don't know if you subbed or I just went, and it was you. And
I was there from the beginning.
But I'll never forget it. I mean, for me, it was profound because I had been doing yoga basically for 10 years. And it was like, oh, shit. You know, this is it for me. And this is my guy. And every word out of your mouth and everything you did was like a bullseye. And it was sort of like you're looking for something and you don't know what it is, and then you find it. It's hard to explain because it's not that common a phenomenon.
Wow. Well, I mean, to me,
it was huge.
At that time, I did not have much of a clue. Like, I was still figuring things out. I mean, but I definitely made the turn already. By the time I met you, I had already made a pretty big turn. You were relating
some of Mark's.
Yeah, I had made the turn already. But
the things that really struck me, and I remember them, were the philosophical things that were obviously brought to bear in the physical practice. But the philosophical things were like, you don't breathe to get into the poses. You get into the poses to kind of get the breath. The body is a container for the breath. Like it flipped it in a way to make it inner as the source and breath as the strength, not the muscle as the strength. So, you know,
beautiful. You did a good job in that class.
And the same thing, you do that exercise where you do that like party trick, which is real, where people try to lift a person on a chair, which is with their fingers. Chair trick.
That's Leslie Kamenov's world famous party
parlor
chair trick, where he demonstrates how an engagement of Ujjayi pranayama or ocean breathing can create, a strong center line of stability.
Yes. And at Kripalu, I've watched you demonstrate it. I was even on the chair and let people...
So wait, let's get to that. So you come to my class
okay.
at Go Yoga, and...
I was just
you were in my class for a while.
Yes,
we had a whole period of time where we had a regular.
I did a weekly with you for at least a year or two.
See, that's it. That's the old school. You did.
You called
2
me
years.
Scott every time instead of Josh, right?
I can't
we had a mental block
because I had another guy who came looked a lot like you, and I always called you. Did you? You never even corrected me, did you?
I think I probably did. But, but it was I kind of just hung in the class quietly, being yes, and I really It just felt good, and it's funny too because when I look back, I'm that was a rare period where I felt pretty head above water. I think I started Funky Monkeys then,
Funky Monkeys, your awesome children's music band that my daughter
listens
to all the time.
We're going to be in Battery Park City, July 20th, outside on the pier. Monday, it's a Monday evening. I don't know if you guys are around. You should come. But anyway. What were we saying?
Had this period in my class, which is really nice to hear.
Don't brush by it. I felt for me personally, it was a profound. It was like having an image of something. It was like having an understanding of something that hadn't been related outside yet, and it was. It was I was recognizing something in you that I thought before you. I had somehow felt this about yoga, but people weren't representing it that way. And I could say forever, I must have had a past life where I did yoga, or that's why at 5 I was entranced by yoga. And the Western yoga that I'd found in the 90s wasn't working. And what I saw in you was some
You're still pretty Western. I mean, I'm Western, and I was coming from a Western viewpoint, but I was trying to get to something, wasn't I?
I think any time a person aims to put a quality of experience or feeling above the physical shape of the experience, it's not a Western thing. Okay, and just because you're American...
You're talking about trying to get to sort of a...
essence over... it's not about the house. It's about the life of the person in the space inside. It's not about the walls and the floor and the ceiling. It's about the life of the family that lives in there. Right. And that's much harder to quantify.
It's always a person doing a pose.
It's a quality of experience and feeling. It's a spiritual, meaning not material, essence. The breath is etheric. It's spiritual. Spirit literally comes.
Yes. Respiratu. Yeah.
Inspiration means to breathe in as much as it means to. So I was this is it. I was I had that kind of stone moment of this is it. Oh my God, a guy like me, my own age. A man, not a woman. It wouldn't have mattered, but I can't help but think.
Well, we have a lot of similar.
We have a lot in common.
I have New York Jew in me, too.
Right. Right, it's true.
I didn't grow up here, but my family roots are here.
Yeah.
But so after this period of time that we had together at Go Yoga in the 90s.
Yes. Or 2002.
Oh, yeah, that's already later by then. Yeah. 2002. So after that period, you left. Where'd you go?
I let it go. And this is a funny story, actually, because you gave me your CD of the practice. And one of the things I'd come to like the most about it was how it never changed.
And I gave them away for free.
Yes.
I always gave them away for free.
See, you were a pure yoga teacher before me. Now you're a yoga teacher and yoga business.
I always thought, what I always thought, and it's terrible now I think about it, is I just thought it was always just getting myself out there to everybody. The more people who had it, the more people who were using it, the better. That was always my thought.
Right, I know a lot of musicians say to me, it's a good exposure to be on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just okay. All right.
Anyways, that's funny. That's funny. I gave it to you for free.
So you gave it, and literally because it's the same practice every time, and that's the strength of it, you could really know where you are on a given day when you do the same practice every day.
I think of it that way, too.
That I was duh, why do I need to pay this not pay the money, but for me, it wasn't really
But
about the money.
that's the idea. Self-practice.
To me,
You can do it by yourself. That's
right, but for me, forget about the money. For me, what I never liked about classes was the people. I'm very boundaryless in a lot of ways, and I can't ignore the person. Like, I can't get into my own inner breath and really pay attention to where I'm at when I'm like, what's that hot girl doing?
You're not real comfortable in groups in general.
Yes. No, in a huge way. Like, I feel like individually I could connect with anyone.
Right.
Give me a half an hour on a bench. I don't think there's anyone I couldn't like. The minute you put two people together, it's like you have the Holocaust, you know? It's like organizations just wreak havoc. That's what they do. Anyway, but that's my own.
So you now have this period of time where you're just kind of doing practice on your own. And are you actually practicing regularly?
No, that's just it.
Like,
because you used to say, you know, even if you just do one sun salutation out of the shower, but make it really good.
On your way from your shower to your clothes, do one sun salutation.
But make it really good.
Like, really do it fully.
And I did that.
One sun salutation a day. You actually took me up on that.
For a couple of weeks, I did just one salutation every day. And then it just petered out. And next thing I know, I'm doing like one sun salutation a week. Okay? And it's not even a full good one, because what can you do with one a week at the end of the day? But no matter how connected that one sun salutation a week is, it's not a lot of yoga. Anyway, and I really kind of let it go. Like lazy people like me will do, knowing it's the greatest thing in the world and still letting it go. And, you know, I'd run into you on the street once or twice, and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I must know you from somewhere," and I'd be like, "Jay Brown, my yoga teacher." Yeah. But that isn't that so telling that there was like 7 years I was still living within blocks of you that I didn't go to your class. I could have gone, like, looking back on it, I mean, it was all meant to be, but had I done yoga every week for those 7 years, like, would my life have been different?
I don't know. Who knows? But I mean,
probably not.
It might have helped. Who knows? I don't know. You might have been doing great. Maybe you were fine. You didn't need to do any yoga.
But I did good. Didn't I? Built a studio in Bushwick.
You did lots
of things. My career did well, and
I think that
won the lottery with
people
Dora.
have like cycles. Like I've made like it kind of like my life pursuit, you know. But I think even in myself, in my own personal practice, there's periods where I practice more, and there's periods where I'm not practicing as much. I think it comes in cycles.
But for me, I'm in it till death now, like, and it's not even a choice anymore. Like,
so let's talk about when we got back together.
Yeah. So, you got your own center.
Eventually.
What was the year?
I opened the center in 2007.
See, that's like a long time. I mean,
because I just taught. I was an independent teacher for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I taught a bunch of places in the city in Brooklyn, and I did that for a long time. And at a certain point, actually, you'll appreciate it from your producer standpoint that, I started to run numbers.
Yeah.
I started to see how many people were coming to my class, and could start doing numbers on how much money was coming in because of that, and then how much was my cut. And also, I just think I felt insecure about it. Like, I realized that at any given moment, a yoga center owner could just be like, "Sorry, I'm closing," or "Sorry, I'm taking your classes."
If you are hearing this message, then you're listening to the free version of Jay Brown Yoga Talks. To hear the rest of our conversation, please subscribe to Podcast Premium at jbrownyoga.com/premium.